Hey guys, Lex here, back for some more of the Great Ace Attorney. Last time we finished the summation examination, and now we should be cross-examining Madam 2 spells soon. So yeah, let's go. 24th of October, 11:53 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendants Antechamber. Ah, the Knight Errant himself. Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Sholmes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs. As a spectator, at least. Glad you've been enjoying yourself. I have to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's this professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I've ever met before. Who even is he? Ah, of course. You were in Germany already 10 years ago. Yes, Professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heart felt his sympathies. As it turns out, Lord Van Zieks is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realize, isn't he? Yes, how true. He's a great friend from university in the dock. And now a waxwork of the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaper failed to foresee the kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that man in front of the man. Make it sound deliberate. Can't help feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling. Oh yes? In what particular matter? Well, there's Mr. Trepper, Dr. Scythe, Lord Van Zieks. Seems that everybody in the trial has a link to the case somehow. Yes. In fact, I alone am not a member of the set. Though that leaves me as an empty set, all alone with no intersection to anyone. Excuse me. Oh, she's here. Dr. Scythe? Ah, Dr. Courtney Scythe. Nay, Stevens. Good day to you. Hello, Sholmes. That's very shrewd of you. What in particular, pray? Requested the 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? Why would you assume such a thing? Because Gregson told me. Oh. I think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory, wielding my scalpel. Smell of nothing but corpses and disinfectant. A policeman on jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Scythe. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. Hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. That certainly won't be possible. Oh. Lord Van Zieks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Lord Strongheart? Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it from me. But attempting to hide from the truth, that's cowardice. I've always fought crime in the way that I see fit. I have no regrets, none at all. That's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. See ya. She mentioned it too, this Pandora's box. Whatever does it all mean? There's really no cause for concern. Assure you, when the trial resumes, the winning will become all too apparent, whether you'd like it or not. Huh? Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah yes, one word of warning before I go. If in the course of this trial afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. Huh? bitter end, you understand. Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Alright, I understand. Thank you. Good. I shall make myself scarce then. I purchased a bar of caramel earlier, so I shall be gnawing on that as you gnaw away at the truth. Awesome. What did that warning from Mr. Shrooms really mean, I wonder? Especially that bit about whatever may come to pass. Oh, no bailiff today? It's time for the final chapter then. It's time for the final chapter then. I'm determined to find the truth, no matter what. Final chapter? But it's only the third case. 21st of October, 12:40 p.m. The Old Bailey Courtroom. Oh, God, scared me. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue? Prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord. Defense is also ready. As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition. We find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation. Seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord. So then, let us begin our explanation of the defense's assertion that Waxwork was of cardinally involved in this matter. Lord Van Zeeks. Lord. We're still awaiting an arrival of Madame Two Spells. That is all. She's in the antechamber as we speak, and ready to be summoned. Very well. Bring the witness. At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Two Spells to the stand. Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Trevor is responsible, as I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice in Dr. Scythe.
What connects the pair of them is the waxwork.
Yes, the model of the professor. That's the key link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tremendous link, admittedly, but at present it's all we have to go on. Forgot how to voice her. State your name and occupation for the court, please.
My name is Esmeralda Two Spells. I'm a waxwork artisan, and the proprietress of Madame Two Spells Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon for me working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon.
Is that Sholmes? Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there are two of them in the world.
Oh my, what expression is carving onto that face?
A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this?
That is true. At first, we believed it to have been kidnapped.
A waxwork model kidnapped?
Yes, my lord. There was a demand for ransom money left behind by the culprit. However, according to what I have been just told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for a body of a murder victim.
At present, that is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. This is the victim in the case in question, Mr. Odiasman.
But of course, I know him well. He's part of my odious personages exhibit. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Asmund does not resemble the professor at all.
Yes, but perhaps their faces are very similar.
Are you suggesting that we should see now the masked visage of the professor? I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock.
This is absurd.
Pardon?
I don't know what face you've carved onto your fancy figure beneath that mask. Clearly it won't be that of the actual killer. Indeed. The man's identity was never made public after all. The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There is no possible way that a repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that information.
Quel dommage. It would seem you are unaware of the two spells principles.
What principles?
The family two spells have always prided itself on sculpting its models a la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity, et voila, our principles. There is a well-known legend about the two spells waxworks from the time of the French Revolution. A member of the two spells family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. That is true. It was a century ago now. I believe the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct. The model is on display today in the House of Horrors. We two spells will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects.
Dear me, a somewhat disturbing tenacity of purpose.
It is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family secret for generations.
Do you mean to say that beneath that mask?
The true visage of the killer is there.
This is ludicrous. It's out of the question.
The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain. As a result, the Madame Two Spells special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer emerging from his own grave. It is a sight to behold. You should come.
Then unlock it. Show us. Prove it. I think, madam, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on this matter. You explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in its creation.
With pleasure.
This testimony, the Professor's Waxwork.
The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. The impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with the Two Spells family principles. I enlisted the aid of the grave digger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered.
A gravedigger. The man sanctioned this?
I will do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance my family is celebrated for. Nobody else knew, only the gravedigger. What harm did it do, huh?
So you truly saw it. The face of that monster.
Naturally, I was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But two spells would not be two spells if we did not insist on absolute fidelity to our sculptures.
I do not believe this. I myself have seen the special exhibit of yours at the museum, madam. A truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave.
The scene it depicts was the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time.
Hey! Oh.
The special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article.
Okay.
It was the most detailed account of what happened, as reported by the eyewitness who saw it.
Cool. Quick. Man rises from grave. It's too absurd for words. Let's look at the article. Oh, that's it. Was Ball Mask to blame for the Great Blaze? The Great Stink. Parliament is to finally issue address to Fowlish. Charles Darwin to receive Copley Medal. Mad Sheep. What does it say? Krakatoa eruption. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words.
The public enjoy absurdity, monsieur. That is why I have reproduced their scene as carefully as possible in my museum.
And it's a waxwork for the museum. And it's a waxwork from the exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it?
That is correct. The professor you see before you here.
Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense proceed with the cross-examination. The waxwork links Drebber to Dr. Scythe. There has to be some reason for that which hasn't yet come to light. But I'll find it. We'll get to the bottom of what really happened. Prove that Dr. Scythe and Drebber were in on this crime together. Cross-examination, the professor's waxwork. Based on a rumor that shocks society.
Hold it!
That rumor would be...
10-year-old tale now, but one that no Londoner would ever forget.
Alright, I just know what you're talking about, I think.
Of course, it couldn't be anything else.
Yes, that story will never disappear.
Tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my house of horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city, and it was like this. It was in the Low Gate Cemetery behind the prison, in the dead of night after the execution of the killer. The intern professor slid back, the stone slab covering his tomb, and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside of him. But an instant later, he heard an ear-splitting gunshot from over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse, and he fell motionless once more. The scream finally found its way from the mouth of the young witness, and turned and ran for his life.
There was a gunshot. The corpse climbed out of his own grave?
And somebody shot him? Who was it?
Man, I can't believe I almost skipped. I almost thought about not pressing this.
Nobody knows, even today. But remember, it's just a rumor. Perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they love stories like this. That is why it was in every newspaper across the capital.
But was it just a story? I mean, this is exactly the scene that can be seen today at your museum, isn't it?
The special exhibit was modeled on that very illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madam, might I say something? Please, go ahead, mademoiselle. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's entirely made up. I believe that often rumors contain elements of the truth. I see people from the East can be just as astute as the people of Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It's not possible for the dead to come back to life.
Sorry?
10 years ago, I was there in Lowgate Cemetery. After the criminal known as the professor was killed by hanging, I took a wax impression of this visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you, the man was dead.
I see. But did you check for a pulse? It would certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate. Glad I press that last one.
Hold it!
Is it that true of every waxwork in your museum then?
It is, assuming the subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know.
What sort of letters?
When my time comes, please make waxwork of me. Come, sir.
No.
My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a waxwork is an honor, and for some criminals, a symbol of status even.
Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax.
It is thanks to the one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of the special exhibit, of course, the Professor.
Whose form you claim to have captured by taking an impression from the actual corpse.
There are no exceptions to the principles of two spells.
Gravedigger. Who was the gravedigger?
Hold it!
Surely that's illegal, isn't it? Yeah, that too. It would seem the proprietress of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed.
It had nothing to do with money. The man is part of London's criminal history. That is why I had to sculpt him, to record this history. It is the raison d'etre of the Two Spells Museum.
But if the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know of the killer's true identity.
I assure you, behind the mask is hidden the true face of the Professor.
Do you realize what you're saying? The Professor's identity is a national secret.
I understand. Now that the truth about the special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close.
Of course it will. As will your entire museum, if you don't tread very carefully, madam.
That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think, don't you?
So 10 years ago, on the night of the Professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse.
Oui, exactement.
Till I give signal.
Hold it!
You were there longer than you expected to be?
I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open and I had some problems with the chin.
Dare I ask?
The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. Muscles were relaxing, and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought! Under normal circumstances I would have an assistant with me. However, that night I was alone, and as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time.
What do you mean?
If I take the impression of the visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after death.
Why 3 hours? Is that amount of time significant?
It is because rigor mortis.
A rigor mortis?
It's a name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. Then, from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. And the effect is often used to estimate the time of death when the body is discovered.
Well, that was an education, if a slightly scary one.
As the Mademoiselle says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death, and it starts in the jaw.
I see. So that is why you wait.
Before that time, the mouth falls open. It's very difficult to do my work.
Ugh. It's getting hard for me to do my work with all this talk of corpses. I wonder about that information that the court just heard from Madame Two Spells.
Significant.
The information about the rigor mortis that you just started with us. Would you mind including it in your formal testimony? I believe it could be significant, you see.
course. Do not mind at all. Can't help feeling her after this latest topic. The atmosphere in the court has become extremely grave.
Nice. This is no time for jokes, Mrs. Hado. Yes, it is. Madam, kindly amend your testimony as discussed.
Yes, sir.
It took me a very long time because the onset rigor mortis. Hanging. Would that have affected it? I don't think so. Hey, I got full stars back. I'm so happy. In the jaw. Okay. Anything else? I'll press it again, just in case. Rigor mortis being the phenomenon you described, whereby the corpse becomes stiff after death. I think you said that it starts in the jaw about 3 hours post-death, is that right?
We say so. Of course, the exact duration depends a little on the season.
Didn't realize a waxwork artisan would be so well versed in the subject.
No, it is only elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine.
Well, I had no idea about it, but maybe I won't admit to my ignorance about forensic science.
I could ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you'd like.
I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them.
Oh dear, I'll do my best.
Okay.
Hold it!
Might as well press the last one. You say that dawn was approaching? What was the time of day then, approximately?
Well, I could not say. When I left the cemetery with my utensils and wax, the morning light was becoming visible.
The execution took place on the 17th of June, which had the earliest sunrise of that year. Indeed it did. First light would have been around 4:08 in the morning. That really is early.
The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work in a half hour. It's necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe, so I had to hurry.
Is it me or does Mr. Sholm seem to be taking shape more quickly now too? You certainly appear to go to extraordinary lengths for your work, madam. I wonder, is what she just said particularly significant? It's significant! Madam, those details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture and the early sunshine, could you include them in the testimony? I believe they may be significant.
Of course, if you'd like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Naruto. It's intriguing. The sunrise at 4 in the morning would be absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it?
That's not quite what I meant by significant. Hardly amend your formal testimony then, madam.
With pleasure, my lord.
Hurry to finish in a half hour before sunrise. So 3 hours. Wait. Autopsy. Death by hanging confirmed midnight at June. So he was still alive? Because 3 hours. 3 hours after midnight would be 3 a.m. He would have had to have rigor mortis already.
Objection!
What?
That last statement. Oh jeez. Do I have to press it again? Damn it. No, it's this one.
Objection!
Damn it. 2 spells. I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows.
And is that a problem?
I believe it is, because your testimony and a particular detail in the report completely contradict one another.
What?
Are you going to explain yourself, my Nipponese friend? No. According to his testimony, Madame Two Spells was creating her wax impression just before dawn. At that time, rigor mortis had not yet set in. Am I correct so far, madam?
You are, yes. As I said, the stiffening of the jaw is the first sign of rigor mortis, 2 or 3 hours after death. The man's chin was limp, so he could not have been dead for a long time.
On the other hand, if you look at Dr. Sai's report, it quite clearly states the following. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, 17th of June. No. The professor indeed died at midnight that day, and by the time you were sculpting his face, rigor mortis would have already set in.
Oui, yes, you are right, the chin. It would have been completely stiff.
In other words, this report is wrong.
Objection!
No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea is absurd. In that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. Impossible. Okay, I was like confused with the hands. Order, counsel. This is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. Sight, but you also implicate the members of the staff at Baka prison where the execution took place. By heck, extraordinary, not a murder.
Objection!
My learned friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact. What fact? Professor died that night, without question.
He did? Of course he did. I moved the man's limp jaw with my own hands. There was no...
Objection!
Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows? Didn't die? Are you insane? What exactly are you suggesting did happen in that case? It's almost impossible to believe, but it would explain the link between Dr. Scythe and the professor. That one other person of interest. I have evidence that will explain exactly what I'm suggesting happened that night. Counsel, present evidence at once. This explains what really happened the night in the professor's execution. Guessing this?
Take that!
What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper article. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. You're suggesting it was a corpse coming back from the dead now. Well, if this article is to be believed, yes. The professor, assumed dead following his execution, emerged from his grave, was killed again.
Objection!
Don't be a fool. That is simply a rumor published by the gutter press. Can you be certain of that? Are you serious? Point is, as the article says, there was a witness to what happened. My word, yes indeed.
Hey, we... The young man who stole into the cemetery by chance that night.
Objection!
Of course there was a witness. The story didn't write itself, but obviously the man made it all up. In any case, this was 10 years ago now. There would surely be no hope of finding him.
Objection!
On the contrary, my lord. We all know the witness well. What? Are you suggesting, counsel, that you've identified the person in question? That you know who claims to have seen these utterly incredible events take place? Yes, my lord. In fact, you could say that he's right here before my very eyes. You guys are dumb. You will substantiate the latest claims now, counsel. Who was the alleged witness of this scene? For a second I thought we were gonna pick the person, like in the picture, like...
Take that!
The man in question is Mr. Enoch Trevor. Trevor? The previous witness? A special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork recreates a decade-old scene in great detail. A condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man is a 10-year younger Mr. Enoch Trevor. Order! Surely not, Counsel. Trevor was there, in Lowgate Cemetery.
What is all this talk about Mr. Trevor? Is the name significant?
Of course, Madame Tuspels doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, madam. To your situation as well, in fact.
What situation?
The theft of the Professor Waxwork from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man.
No. What that would mean?
Madame Tuspels. Would appear you know the name Enoch Trevor.
Yes, I know it. But from long ago in the past.
What?
My.
Good gracious. Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know.
Yes, of course. The story of a young man and the terrible sight he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, in all the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed. That is, apart from one newspaper. Daily Circus. There's a paper from which comes the article I have already shown the court.
You're saying that his full name was only publicized in this article? Goodness me. Yes, here it is. The university student who experienced this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Trevor, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of its student dorms. Unbelievable.
When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night would make a perfect exhibit of my House of Horrors, whether it was the truth or not.
I see. So you went to meet Mr. Trevor in order to scope waxwork of the man, did you?
Exactement. We were studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork. Since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of terror from the cemetery.
Huh? Crickets? So, 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he'd witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote that was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would the man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into the Crystal Tower. The birdcage had in fact contained not the body of the Mr. Asman, but the same waxwork. The coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated Dr. Scythe would have noticed immediately. And yet, she submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court has seen earlier. Why? Because the waxwork was that of the professor. Is that what you're saying? Dr. Scythe put her name in the document confirming the death of the condemned criminal who's still alive. A criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the body double. Oh. My lord. This court must summon Dr. Scythe to the stand. Defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. But according to the missive I received this morning through the prosecutor's office, Dr. Scythe is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case?
She told us herself, didn't she? Lord Van Zeeks won't be summoning me as witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it.
Lord Strongheart?
The Pandora's box you warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me.
Something happened on the night of that killer's execution 10 years ago. Surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Van Zeeks. Prosecution calls for the instructions in that missive to be scrapped. Oh yeah.
But Lord Van Zeeks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's office.
Objection!
The assigned prosecutor has the final say on the policy in any particular trial. In other words, me. Yeah. Let Enoch Tripper and Dr. Scythe both take the stand together. Oh yeah.
Order. Very well, I'll uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect, addressed to Dr. Scythe of the Forensic Investigation Team. The woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders.
Alright then, Enoch Tripper and Dr. Scythe. If they weren't colluding with one another, this crime could never have been committed. From just a stone's throw away, I could feel it. The truth behind all this is about to come out. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna end the episode here, and then next time, we'll continue the trial. Thanks for watching, see ya, bye!